Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Season 7 of Stand Up and Stand Out. Párate y desdécate. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Nikki Green. As a life and business resiliency expert, I thought we would share some stories of resilience this season. It's also the 1-year anniversary of Chameleon Mindset, my best-selling book, and we are giving away a bunch of great prizes and deep discounts on my coaching programs to celebrate. Be sure to check the show notes of each episode to learn more and follow me on social media. I hope you're enjoying Season 7, and I look forward to hearing your feedback and comments on the fascinating topics we're going to cover with each guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 7 of Stand Up and Stand Out. Today, we have the wonderful Tina Bakehouse back. You might have caught her on Season 6 in episode 72. So if you missed that episode, flashback to go catch her there. But this time, we're going to be talking about resilience. So hi, Tina. Say hello to the audience.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here, Nikki. Thanks for having me back.
Well, it's great to have you. We shared so many fun stories in the last one. As we kick off the new season and a new year, I know a lot of people are kind of struggling a little bit. Maybe they had a little bit difficult year in 2023, and economically, there's some challenges. Globally, there's some challenges. And so I thought it would be a good topic for this season to really share some of our stories of vulnerability when, resilience was an important part of us overcoming obstacles. And I think our shared experience is probably the pandemic, right? So maybe we can start there.
Yeah, the pandemic. Oh my goodness. It was weird how in March 16th of 2020, just everybody's world just shifted upside down. All of a sudden, I learned that about 85% of my full-time job is just gone. And so that's new. And my 4th grader is home. So I get to homeschool my only child. And then I'm on a farm, very isolated. And what I found during that time is gratitude, because I didn't realize, especially since my sister's a healthcare provider she was in New York City at the time as a nurse, and she couldn't go outside unless she was going to work. So I had this wide open space of river, sandbar, trees to be just walking around and enjoying, whereas she did not have that luxury. And a lot of people didn't who lived in big cities, especially during that time. And I also learned, as far as the pandemic goes, it was really true. I remember my mom saying years ago, boredom is a state of mind. And my son, boy, did he teach me lots of things. He said, Mom, you just got to get creative about being creative. And I loved that in his little, 10-year-old wisdom. And so he, in this time, found his great-great-grandfather's golf clubs and started to learn the game of golf, created in the basement this beautiful mini golf experience, and along with billboards and all of this. But he taught me the way he was playing was so creative. He was not showing depression. He was, okay, how can we do this? Let's play some croquet outside. Let's embrace. And so I thought, how can I embrace? And it was during that time that I figuratively jumped out of the plane, and my side gig of Tina B LLC, which is a communication consultant company, became a real deal. And I decided at that point, as I sat with myself, to leave that job, even though they were gracious and said, hey, you'll probably get some of this back. I just learned very quickly that my passion in Act 3 of my life, I meant to connect and communicate with heart-centered leaders, to draw out of them their voices, their stories, to make big changes.
I love that. And I think it was an important thing of when we got to bring our families back together, and spend time with them, that we saw different sides of each other instead of just this hustle and bustle of, okay, got to go to school, got to go to work, got to run around. It was all of a sudden, let's rethink what's happening. The funny part is, and I tell the joke in my first book, I Laugh in the Face of Danger, is March 16th is my boyfriend's birthday. And I had planned this elaborate celebration for his birthday. And he's like, don't do it. Don't do it. My birthday is always a disaster. Like in my whole life, it's never gone well. And I was like, not with me. This is going to be great. So we shut down the entire world just for the short stop.
Thanks, Nikki. No, my son's birthday was March 20th. So we had this beautiful, huge birthday party celebration as well that we had to cancel. And what a unique experience of getting a to-go order from his favorite restaurant and sitting at home together, just the three of us. So, but I had him journal about it, and he wrote all the things he was happy and excited about, and that we watched the movie he wanted to watch. And so it really opened my mind to it is how we frame things. And that to me is what resilience is how you see the world and how you tackle it.
Totally. Well, and that was it. I got sort of kicked out of my apartment at the same time because they thought they were going to sell. So instead of being downtown in Chicago, I also had that dichotomy of I actually moved out with him into the suburbs of Chicago, where I ended up being much safer. I ended up having that space, and I was incredibly thankful. So I said, happy birthday to you. This is the actual gift, is I'm showing up on your doorstep.
That is a beautiful gift. I mean, you actually got to try new. That probably wouldn't have happened as soon as it did.
Exactly. And that's what I like when you're saying about reframing. And I know you've had some other instances in your past, a moment of silence where you actually, again, had to take a step back. So maybe talk about that experience of resilience as well.
I just want you to imagine for a moment, Nikki, because I know you go on stages and speak a lot, that you open your mouth to speak and nothing comes out, like not even a squeak. And I know I've strained my voice before, and you may have too, but this was a panicked moment because I'm in, of all places, a high school classroom, and I teach, ironically, public speaking. And so that to me was the joke in and of itself. And I thought, well, certainly my voice will come back. Well, I didn't get to go back to school and teach because it literally for days was not coming back. And I decided I need to seek speech pathology and get some help. And I got assessed for vocal cord nodules. If you know Julie Andrews from Sound of Music, she had that and went through the surgery, and it permanently changed her voice to be lower. And I went beyond the speech pathologist doing breathing exercises, vocal, rest. It wasn't enough. And I started to panic a little bit because this is, if you ever think about, I define myself by my voice of how I sound. And so I went to a laryncologist, which focused on opera singers, and he looked down my throat, and I still have the scope of that picture of strained vocal cords. And he says, you have two choices. You can have surgery, and most likely one of two things will happen. Your voice will change in pitch from how you know it to be, which kind of freaked me out, or it may just remain the same. And I'm thinking, well, that's an absorbent amount of money to have my voice be the same. Or it's 6 weeks of silence. And he said, absolutely no talking, no laughing, because that's worse on your vocal cords. And I'm a big laugher. And then no cheating. So for 6 weeks, I had one-sided conversations where I had a lot of people show up at my doorstep to just talk to me and at me. And I had a notepad, but what I found in that moment, honestly, is that people just want to be seen and heard and share their stories. And it also taught me I needed to be a better listener, and that co-creation is really from being fully present and listening. And so working through that, and I actually a couple of weeks ago was experiencing similar strain due to stress with the book and doing my audiobook. And I recognize stress impacts our voice. When you are really, really stressed, you strain your vocal cords. So it's really finding the calm and how we look at the world, how we look at our circumstance, and getting into that inner will and knowing that it's limitless, that we have the ability to get through it. And so it was from that moment that I left high school teaching and got a collegiate professional position, getting to teach at the college. So it was a gift at the end of the day.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikki Green, and I am a life and business resiliency expert. I have been helping people for over 2 decades overcome their challenges and achieve their life and business goals. I wrote Chameleon Mindset for others seeking clarity while acclimating to new situations. This entertaining yet research-based guide to transitions will open your mind to unique strategies for finding purpose and achieving your goals. Through my new book, you will create the happy life you desire with 5 philosophies for change, beginning with C for creative adaptability. Move from resistance to resilience by assessing and adjusting your risk tolerance. The practical lessons in Chameleon Mindset will help you shift your mindset, sharpen your skill set, and overcome the things holding you back from dealing with change. We'll have the new online course coming soon. There are half a dozen modules in total, but the way you choose to pursue your destiny, it's up to you. Each module can be done independently or repeated as necessary to tackle new obstacles and new goals in your life. And you can earn extra chameleon coins for uncovering them. What are chameleon coins, you might ask? These are reward XP that you can earn to purchase additional chameleon mindset benefits as you progress through the course. You can get swag, group coaching, one-on-one coaching, exclusive event tickets, and networking opportunities. And if you collect enough coins, you can even earn a full-day VIP intensive with me to work solely on your goals. And by joining the Chameleon crew, you will also gain access to my network of thousands of influential people around the world with expertise to help you on your business, your personal endeavors, health and fitness, and so much more. Reserve a copy today and click below to be added to our subscriber list. That's so amazing. And it is so scary. My aunt was a performer on Broadway for many years. And I know, taking care of her voice was such an integral part of, every single day. And so, watching her do that preparation actually taught me a lot about how to make sure I was taking care of my voice and things for performances. And, I'm not singing, so I'm not using my vocal cords in the same way, but still you're projecting and it does take a lot of energy to be on stage. And the way she found stillness before performances too, just those things are so critical. And we can't just go all the time. It is going to affect every part of us, especially the thing we use the most, which for us is talking.
I didn't realize in that moment, it's sort of like when you sprain an ankle or you hurt a thumb or your hand and you're like, wow, I really use my right hand way more than I thought. Same with our voices, simple things. Just a quick, hey, could you get that, honey? I can't say that when his back is turned to me. So I had to shuffle over and write it down or point or what have you. But it did make me realize too, the importance of communication, and it's a sending and receiving of messages. And even though I'm an enthusiastic communicator, very gregarious, it's really also a co-creation. You don't want to sell, tell, and yell all of your ideas all the time. That can be overwhelming and overbearing, but it's bringing in the other.
That's beautiful. It also reminds me of this episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer when I was younger. I used to watch that religiously with my mom. But there was an episode called Hush, and like one of the monsters actually takes everyone's voice. So no one can communicate other than they all had like little whiteboards that they were carrying around. But it does make you rethink your world and the way that you communicate and being more concise with what you do, because you don't have the amount of time to write and get people to pay attention and understand context.
You're a lot more efficient. I mean, it really makes you slice and dice what you say, how much you say in terms of writing, because I had notepads or dry erase board as well.
Exactly. Well, I just got a copy of your book, Discovering Our Magnetic Speaker Within. I'm very excited to read that. I know a lot of speakers in my community are, just looking to continue to up their game. But talk about that labor of love and other projects in process.
Talk about resilience. When I think of resilience, it is that capacity to withstand something that's tough and overcome and have this grit, right? Sort of like the rubber band, you stretch it out and then it comes back. And I know that you've been in the world of creating podcasts and creating mode and writing a book. And so the rigor that goes into it. It's a lot of energy. First, it's the decision, I'm going to do it. And then it's the actual doing of it. That's decision number one. I'm going to do this thing. Then for me, I knew I didn't want to self-publish. I wanted to work with a publisher. So that was another juggle. So I worked with Georgetown University Manuscript Publishing, and I knew I had to get to writing every day. And I did what Jerry Seinfeld said is don't break the chain. Every day, find a way to write. And it was very methodical. I blocked out time every morning. That was my freshest time to download. And I started simply in June of 2022, looking at all my journals from age 19, and I'm 48. That's nearly 3 decades of insights. I've been wanting to write a book for a long time and just did a brain dump and just pre-wrote some ideas for chapters. From there, I had the guidance of their book creators actual class through the Georgetown University and the help of a developmental editor, which was invaluable, as well as multiple levels of editing. And editing was rigorous. Talk about resilience. I having to spring back into shape. Oh my goodness. Like get back up in the morning and then you have to take things out. I had a graveyard on Microsoft Word of, I have to let you go, pretty words, and put you there. Bye bye. And the emotional trauma, I think I use the word trauma because it was really hard for me, first of all, to admit I was writing a book. I kept calling it a writing project. My revisions editors like, Tina, admit you're writing a book. And then go through that process of deleting and adding and deleting and adding. But it was a very insightful experience and getting to the end because so many people say they're going to write a book and just simply don't. So October of 2023, when I held that book, I cried. I read the dedication out loud and thought, this is real. This 17, 18-year-old in creative writing class, Mrs. Brown's class, who so held a book one day, said, how did they publish this? I want to do that. Did it.
Oh, I love it. It is such a roller coaster. And it was something I never envisioned doing it. And now I just put pen to paper for book number 6. And it was still, even, so many books later, every time it still gives you that nervous energy of, and you think, and you're building a little bit of resilience, you better understand the process, you have a better community of people to help you with it. But it's never, that simple because one part is the creative part. Maybe you have that flow and you're in it every day. Well, then you have to do the editing. And like you said, editing can be painful because you think you're a genius. You're like, man, when I wrote this was fantastic. And then someone else gets a hold of it. And it's not always just the grammatical stuff too. It's like, can someone else who wasn't a part of the story understand and get that?
Exactly. The grammatical, I love it. I mean, I usually can catch those, but you're in the midst of it. There's like 50,000 words. So obviously you're going to miss something. Those corrections were not nearly as hard to cope with as the ones that, I don't like that idea because that's like stinging the heartstrings.
Yeah. And a lot of times I'll get I didn't follow you from A to Z. Like it felt like you went like.
It makes sense in my head. Right. Oh, I totally, absolutely can empathize with that.
Yeah. Another great speaker I'll introduce you to, Melissa, she talks about the mind story, right? Of like that story that's going on in your mind. And sometimes you see it in full color and everything's really lively and actionable. But when you put pen to paper, or even when you get up on stage, you're not always kind of connecting those critical dots for everyone. So very brave of you to keep writing. It is a labor of love, and it's something for resilience. And I think something that everybody should be participating in. One of our projects this year is the 50 Authors Project of really letting 50 new writers bring, their story to life, whether that's fiction or nonfiction, whatever they want, but really helping encourage more people to write. So I'm excited to see what's new for you.
Absolutely. And I know there's more books in me. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. And you probably felt the same way after you published that first book, like, I'm never doing this again for that hot minute. And you're like, but it was so amazing.
Yeah, I feel like writing books is a lot like running marathons.
Addictive. It's like you get in this writer's high, and there is something special about getting into that deep work flow and just losing yourself in the ideas and the words and being able to share it with other people. And it is rewarding to actually hear feedback from people and say, hey, that helped me. That was insightful.
And I think a lot of people get discouraged because of probably the things that they learned when they were younger in school. In a previous episode, I was talking about when we first learned to read and write, it's difficult. It's not a natural skill. Math is a little bit more obvious, like 1 + 1 is 2, right? You can see it. But like forming letters and that letter has a sound and it's not consistent depending on who's saying it and what language you're speaking. Watching our little one go through that right now, I remember now like how difficult that is. And then I think, we read everything all day long. Like we're reading labels, you're reading how to cook your recipes, you're driving your car. But then going back to writing and really creative, something brand new, that's tough.
We are meant to create though, right? And it's giving your own story, your own fresh perspective and people learn, and that's the power of story. It transports our heads to the audience's hearts when we are able to share those lessons learned when we had a tough time of failure that we pulled through and got to the other side.
Absolutely. Well, I'm working on new in-person retreats this year, and we've hit a few snags trying to get people into the retreats. I know, recession is affecting a lot of people. A lot of people I know have gone through layoffs. And so, we're kind of redirecting our energy to keep that going. And I know you guys are working through some of your new retreats as well. So maybe talk a little bit about, kind of what your plans are and what's going on with Bali.
Right. Absolutely. As the year of 2024 came about, my word has been intentional, like how I spend my time, efforts, energy, money, etc. And I've always had this vision of going to Bali, a very spiritual place. And I made a connection. Someone who had lived there, she and I have been in touch for more than 3 years, met through LinkedIn, powerful social media tool, and said, "Hey, what do you think of facilitating a wonderful retreat, a women's retreat together?" And she said, "Oh my goodness, I have another friend in Toronto that would like to do the same thing. So let's collaborate." And this came about in September, this past September. And so we were really generating wonderful workshops, ideas, got a landing page and women interested in, and some actually were going to filter in. And it was scheduled to be this February 24th through the February 24th, through March 2nd. And what we found is, some people had personal situations where they had to back out. And so they got their refund back, et cetera, all of that. And we realized that this is sort of the universe saying, you know what? Why don't we capitalize on this experience and make it a beta project? And instead of being disappointed and saying, wow, that didn't happen, it happened differently. It was really meant to be, in that we're getting to go through a lot of different places, like a private island, swim with manatees, try these different excursions, healing spiritual waters. And then from there, we were taking someone with us as our beta project and testing out some of these excursions, conversational pieces, workshops to get feedback. So I feel like in January or February of 2025, it's going to be an even more powerful create your next chapter retreat, because I will have been there, because I was going in blind. I've never been to Bali, right? And so now I feel like, oh, now we can really feel the energy and create that for other women. And I love it. It's like resilient people. I love what I watched a TED talk about resilience recently. And Lucy Holmes says this, that resilient people really know that weird crap happens. That's just life, and you get through it. And secondly, that it's where you put your attention. Where are you going to be attentive to? Are you going to attend to, people said yes, and then they said no? Or are you going to say, hey, what a great opportunity we're going to get to explore now? And finally, it is asking at the core, does this help or harm me? So whenever you're going through something rough and tough, whether it's losing someone or a business fail or whatever it may be, it's asking, well, what I'm thinking, doing, does it help or harm?
Beautiful, beautiful. And that is exactly where I think I want to leave our audience, because I've heard this from many entrepreneurs right now. They're struggling, the attention span and the people just being able to sit there and go to so many webinars and classes and all these things. It's gone away. A lot of people are back in the office. A lot of people have to be there more hours. There's more traffic, all of those things. And so things may not be going according to plan, but we can still keep moving a step towards our dreams and just find that resilience and find that silver lining. Every time something happens, there is something good that's going to come out of it. And I know amazing things are going to come for you, Tina. Well, it's time to sign off. So before we go, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you to learn more about you?
Absolutely, Nikki. Thank you. You can connect with me, check out my newsletter, write an email to have a conversation at tinabakehouse.com. My website, tinabakehouse.com. I always like to say TINA, and then bake as in baking cookies, house as in casa.com.
Beautiful. And we'll have a link to your book, Discovering Our Magnetic Speaker Within, in the show notes. It's been wonderful having you once again on the show. Hopefully, again, since we're relatively neighbors, we'll get to hang out in person sometime soon. Thank you guys for joining this episode of Stand Up and Stand Out. If you guys want to catch this or any of the other episodes, you can go to thenikkigreen360.com and /podcasts. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see you wherever the cool kids hang out that do podcasts.